Welcome back to Dead Good Book Reviews. I'm Judith and you're watching another episode of Overbooked, the series where I talk about every single book on my shelves because who knows which animal I might shapeshift into next. Today we are talking about L.L. McRae's World of Linaria series. Quick disclaimers before we start. I was sent review copies of every single book in this series, though I did then have to go and buy myself a copy of Issa, the fourth book, because I lost the email where the PDF was. But it's by the by, regardless of where books come from, nobody's paying me to talk about books and all opinions are my own. I'm also going to keep this as spoiler-free as humanly possible. If you do want to go in knowing absolutely nothing, click away now, and the story graph will be linked below if you would like to find any content warnings. This is an epic fantasy series. I would say that you could read it if you liked YA, but I think it is technically adult. Don't quote me on that. I'm fairly sure. It's epic fantasy, it's got dragons, it's got shapeshifters, it's got sky ships, it's got sky pirates, it's got everything you could possibly want. Let's talk about it. L.L. McRae originally published these under the name L.L. McNeil. Names change, things, we move on with our lives, so that's why I'm not holding up my copies, because I believe the covers have slightly changed, so I will put them up now. The first book is Marauder, the second book is Palom, the third book is Amara, and the fourth book is Issa. I have a very strong personal connection to this series because I don't know if L.L. McRae knows this, but this is actually the first physical book I was ever sent for review. This is way back when, in probably 2016, 2017, possibly, I can't quite remember. I just started blogging and someone contacted me, was like, would you like to read my book? And it turned out we were both in Oxfordshire and that was really exciting as well. And yeah, it got sent to me at my office actually, and I was just so happy, and yes, it is held a treasured place in my heart ever since then. That may have an impact on my feelings towards the series, but hey, this is my review, not anyone else's review. So yes, that's my personal connection, and then I have since read every single book in the series so far. This series isn't yet complete, but let's talk about it as far as we are now, because there's 4 books worth to talk about, why not? I'm going to read you the plot of book 1 from the blurb, because I think that's the easiest way to kind of explain this, and then I can get more into the world and why it works as a series as we get into the review. Marauder's life is thrown into turmoil after she is publicly arrested. Her city is destroyed and she narrowly escapes the chaos on a sky pirate's airship, but she finds no salvation outside the blackened city walls. A vigilante from an exiled race has left a trail of destruction everywhere his growing army travel. With compulsion at his fingertips, he strengthens his hold over Linaria's people by stealing the power of dragons. It's only a matter of time before she too is forced to submit. With war nipping at her heels and danger lurking in her companions and adversaries, Marauder must quickly learn about herself, her world, and the dragons so intent on reducing it to ash. First book is very much kind of questing party against the big bad, and then as the books go on, I would say it's mostly dealing with the consequences of book 1, which is one of my favourite series things to do, and also kind of Song of Ice and Fire is the most obvious example of this, but then the characters go off in their different directions and we sort of follow them, but there are familiar locations, so you'll see one character visit a place and then maybe in the next book another character will visit it. It very much has that feel of telling a bunch of stories in a kind of sandpit world, which I really enjoy. And it also has that, again, Song of Ice and Fire is the best example I can think of, way of when you as the reader know where characters are going and you know that they're going to meet up there and reunite, or possibly what's the non-positive way of reuniting? Is it still reuniting if you hate each other? I don't know, but that happens. I also really like how L.L. McRae created kind of, it almost feels like a tabletop in the sense that there are these different kind of character classes is what you would probably call them in the context of a tabletop. But you have kind of the Italon who are shapeshifters, you have Varkane who are snake shapeshifters very specifically, you have kind of normal human beings, but there are palace guards, there's sky pirates, there's winged people. It's a lot, but it really works well, and actually L.L. McRae has a companion's guide to Linaria, which I think is really cool, where you can look at art of different characters and creatures and such and see them all, which I found very helpful as somebody who sometimes has a difficult time taking in information. I liked it a lot. So it does have that feeling of a world where you can explore different things, and if you're interested in following the winged creatures, for example, they have their own storyline throughout the series, which can be very helpful, particularly if you also get bored by a different storyline. You can kind of be kept going by other things. I personally really actually liked Morgan's story, who's a palace guard. I think he's not my favourite character, but I really liked his arc across the 4 books so far. There's a lot of variety across the 4 books, which I think helps keep them interesting. I think the other thing I like is there's a lot of character change across all of the books, which I can't talk about in much detail because spoilers would abound. But I think because the books are so long, particularly when we're getting into Amara territory, there's a lot of space to really explore the change in characters as a result of various events in the books. So you can have a character who perhaps comes across as very complicit in nastiness, who actually get the time to really develop them, and the redemption arcs, where there are redemption arcs, they don't feel gratuitous, they feel like there's something that you should really get on board with, which I appreciated. Likewise, there are characters who start off and you're like, I'm definitely on your side, and then maybe you start to drift away from that. And it's really interesting the way that these changes in character are navigated, and one of the things I really like is it's always clear but not explicit what a character's motivations are and why they're making the choices they do. It's understandable, but it's not that thing where you're getting someone say like, my father died and now I am evil. It's not quite as unsubtle as that, but it definitely works. I don't read a lot of indie pub or self-published fiction. It's just not really ever been my thing. If you do want that to be your thing, I recommend following Asha. She reads loads of it and she gives really, really good recommendations. So I don't know how much this applies to all things. I don't want to make sweeping generalizations, but I think with this you can tell that it hasn't gone through that kind of traditional publishing schedule, particularly in some of the editing, particularly maybe in some of the later books. And it's not as egregious as some other examples, because I've read some rather terrible self-pubbed stuff in my past. But there are just a few things where you think, actually, this could be made just a little bit tighter. I think I found that particularly in Amara. I think Amara just needs nipping off right at the edges, and it would be just a slightly stronger, much tighter book. And I think part of the reason for that is it spends a lot of time focused on the emotion of the first book, which is partly why I believe that the first book is the strongest. Marauder is my favourite of the series so far, because it doesn't have all of the baggage that they're carrying forward. And I think it's also that issue of it's hard to know how much time has passed, but people are very, very in the end of the first book emotionally for a very long time. And it can get to a point where you're like, in terms of a publishing schedule, you're years down the line as a reader, but the character isn't that far away from it yet, and it's hard to know at what point you say kind of like, okay, right, but I need a different reason for you to care about this now. I need you to... It sounds so rude to say get over it, because it is very emotional for the characters, but also they're not real and I can't insult them, and maybe they need to find something else to focus on, was my feeling at certain points of some of the later books. I do think that started to shift during Issa though, which gives me a lot of hope for the end books in the series. I also think they are just generally quite slow paced in terms of when things are revealed and when characters make choices. It's quite spread out. I think you actually probably could smush 2, 3, and maybe some of 4 into maybe 2 books, maybe even 1 book. I just think that there are a lot of world building details thrown in that possibly aren't necessary for the telling of the story. But conversely, if this series is about the world, it's called the World of Linaria series, maybe that makes sense. I don't know, I'm conflicted, and I think it probably depends what you're interested in. Books similar to this, as I say, I haven't read a lot of self-published fantasy. I've given you the Asha recommendation. I recommend going there. Books with Sky Pirates, I always recommend the Edge Chronicles, even though they're middle grade, because Sky Pirates are always a good time. 100% of the time, love Sky Pirates. I wonder maybe about something like the... what's it called? I did a review for it. The Nine Realms Chronicles, that quartet that I reviewed a while ago, back when we were in the K region of Overbooked. I actually really like that series, and it has a lot of that same multiple characters on a questing party, pull them apart, put them back together, see how it goes kind of feeling. And it has a lot of similar feel to it, though the world itself is very different. I think any book that has a really strong world and really strong character ideas, something like The Gutter Prayer, Black Iron Legacy by Gareth Hanrahan, that has a similar, this could be a tabletop game, that's how the characters feel like they've been put together, that kind of thing makes a lot of sense to me. I'm trying to think what else has that same kind of idea to it, but all I can think about is Rook and Rose, because I know that came out of a tabletop, but that's very different to this series. But yeah, if you like that wide, expansive fantasy kind of setting, this might be a series for you. Overall, I think if you like the ideas of this, I think it would be well worth reading. I don't know that I'd be saying that everyone and their mum needs to rush out and buy themselves a copy, but I do believe they are probably on Kindle Unlimited. So if you were looking for a fantasy series that you can read that's nice and hefty, but kind of builds you into it, Marauder is much, much shorter than Issa is. I think that you would have a good time with this, especially if that Sky Pirates, shapeshifting, emotional sort of story is something you would enjoy, and actually something that has very minimal romance. So if you were looking for something where romance is not at the forefront of the series, this might be one for you as well. I think that's all I have to say on that one. Have you read these? Do you have plans to? What kind of self-published or indie published fiction do you enjoy? Do you have any good recommendations? I'm sure that you do. I 100% know that you do. So plonk them down in the comments below. While you're down there commenting, if you haven't already, please do subscribe. It makes me feel loved and appreciated, and it lets you know when I post more videos. Though nothing makes me feel more loved and appreciated appreciated than my patrons over on Patreon who support the channel and make videos like this possible. If you'd like to join their number, that's all linked below, as is my Discord and my social media if you want to come hang out and chat about books in various places. I will also say that this is actually the start of Overbooked Season 6. I know, I'm surprised too. This is essentially the 6th shelf on my old bookshelves in my old house. We've hit that point. Hooray! Nothing has any meaning and everything is arbitrary, but hey, welcome to Overbooked Season 6. Thank you so much for watching. That's all from me, and I will see you in the next one. There's gonna be some bloopers now. The dog has gone to sleep in a really funny position. She's like slid all the way off her bed, and she's just lying like a little banana. I think she's tired today. I don't know why. You haven't done anything. You did one zoomie.